we touched on briefly there was conditioning. When we've learned behaviours. So when we've had learned behaviours from our parents or people around us, influential people when we were younger, then we can start to do those things habitually. We're creatures of habit. So it's been said under studies that it takes 21 days to break a habit. So if we want to make a change in our diet, in our lifestyle, if we want to take out a new fitness regime, for example, we want to do it for 21 days non-stop, and then after 21 days, in theory, we've created a new habit. So likewise with eating patterns, for example, if we're starting to change our eating habits, we want to do it for at least 21 days, and then after 21 days, it all starts to get that much easier, because we're starting to create a habit, because we're creatures of habit anyway. And that's how we've learned most of the things we do these days. If you imagine it just like the neurological pathways in the brain, if you imagine it just like a path, you see a path and it's overgrown with trees and plants, etc. To get through that path is quite difficult. Now, if you saw a path right next to that, which didn't have anything in its way, then the likelihood is you're going to take the path of least resistance. But what we're doing to create new habits is we're chopping down, we're getting a machete out and we're chopping down all of that overgrowth, and we're creating a new path. When this new path gets created from a little bit of effort, it does take a bit of effort, then in time we start using this new path and the other path starts getting overgrown. So that's a nice analogy to see how easy it can be to change our neurological pathways and our habits. But for many years we've been experiencing these habits, negative habits that we've learned. A simple one, maybe sugar in your tea, for example. Your parents always had sugar in your tea, your grandparents always had sugar in their tea, and every time they made tea for you, they put sugar in it. So you got used to that nice sweet taste, and then time and time again, and now, do you take sugar in your tea? Yes, 2 sugars for me, please. Without even thinking about it, you take 2 sugars. Without even thinking about it, you're getting the sugar out and putting it in. But then when you start to learn actually how bad sugar can be for you, then you may try to get off that habit, but it's not only the physical addiction, but it's the habit that you're used to doing as well. Other people around us can also get used to our habits, and it can be difficult for people because sometimes we don't like change. So when somebody else around us starts to change, then that can flick a switch within us and we can think, oh no, maybe I need to change now. So then we can start to push other people's buttons and they can start to get frightened by the changes that we're making. So those are some ways how we can try to break habits. There are loads of different techniques you can use. This is a short section, we're not going to get into that now, but there's lots of different ways that you can look at changing these habits. One simple tip, like I was saying, was 21 days. So whatever you're going to do, if you want to change a habit, do it for 21 days, at least 21 days first, give it a try, and then see what you like after that. I'm sure it'll be a lot easier after you've gone through the 21-day process, because you, just like brushing out teeth, for example. Brushing out teeth initially was difficult as a child, but then how many of you think, do you think about brushing your teeth in the morning and in the evening? It's just habitual. So that just goes to show how easy it can be for us to influence with good eating habits, with good healthier choices. It can be that simple, but it just takes a little bit of effort and work in the beginning, but then it pays off in the long term. Have you ever heard the term, a change is as good as a rest? Then our bodies also welcome change. So when we start to put these changes into place, like we're talking in relation to resolving addiction, so when we start to put these changes in place, our body goes, wow, it's been so used to being in the path of addiction, but when we start to make a change, it keeps us on our toes and it keeps our body on its toes as well. It can react in a very positive way. So you may be surprised that when you start to change your addictive behaviours and addictive patterns, you may be surprised how your body starts to reward you in the positive. Section we spoke about transitioning into a plant-based diet. One of the things that can come up regularly with regards to addictions, sometimes there's people that want to transition into a plant-based diet, but unfortunately they feel like they're addicted to animal-based proteins and fats. That's actually what they're addicted to, but they may not be aware of it. They're addicted to the easy proteins and fats. And then if they went to a more plant-based diet, then if they're not getting the essential fatty acids and their amino balance and their fats in place, then they can start to struggle. And lots of people will fall off the wagon, if you like, when they go to a plant-based diet. Then they may start getting drawn back to the meat when they've got these deficiencies which are playing out, because there can be deficiencies which have been playing out for many years, even coming down from our ancestors as well. So what we want to be aware of is making sure that we're getting enough proteins, enough amino acids and enough fats, and then that should be enough in itself to switch off the addiction to things like animal-based proteins. So that's a nice little tip, especially if you're trying to transition to a plant-based diet, because we've had clients and students which can be hard on themselves sometimes, because compassionately they don't want to eat animals, but they find that they really struggle when they do actually try and give it up. So when we look at it just on the physical level and we start to understand on a more deeper level, then it's a lot easier for us to make that transition.